All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a literal masterclass in procedural storytelling, the legendary tale of the Little Red Hen. Fables really aren't just cute little bedtime stories. They're basically ancient flowcharts designed to teach us a very specific moral lesson. By breaking down the structure, the repetition, and the exact sequence of events in our source text, we're going to see exactly how this classic narrative is built from the ground up. So let's get into it. Because when you get right down to it, everything in this story revolves around one massive question. If you don't do the work, should you get the reward? It's a foundational question of fairness, isn't it? It touches on economics, community, and just, well, basic decency. Keep this question front and center as we go through this, because every single action our protagonist takes and every single refusal from her friends is building a rock-solid case to answer this very question by the end. And that brings us to where our story actually begins. Meet our protagonist, the Little Red Hen, an absolute picture of industry and focus. According to the text, she finds a little seed, a wheat seed to be exact. So she turns to her peers and her community with a really simple, practical question: who will plant the seed? The monkey's response? Not I. The dog's response? Not I. Right out of the gate, we've got a crystal clear division between the worker and the bystanders. Let's start at the literal root of this whole procedural journey. Our source defines a seed as a small, hard thing to grow plant. It basically represents pure, untapped potential, right? But here's the critical thing about potential. It requires labor to unlock. A seed does absolutely nothing if it just sits there in the dirt. It demands effort. But man, effort is exactly what her community is avoiding like the plague. Not I. This is the chorus of the fable. In storytelling, repetition is a tool used to really hammer home a point. And here, it perfectly illustrates this continuous, habitual laziness. When it comes to planting, the monkey and the dog say, not I. Later, when she asks who's going to cut the wheat, the cat jumps in with a not I, right alongside the monkey and dog. They are consistently and predictably dodging responsibility at literally every single phase of the project. So what's the counterweight to all that laziness? It's simple. Then I will. This is the hen's determined catchphrase. Every single time the community steps back, the little red hen steps up. She doesn't argue with them. She doesn't try to guilt them into it. She simply accepts their refusal and takes absolute total ownership of the labor. This establishes her complete agency in the narrative. And the source text follows this up every time with this simple, definitive sentence. And she did. And you have to remember, this isn't just one quick chore. We're talking about an entire agricultural cycle here. We can track her solo labor step by step. Step 1, she finds the seed. Step 2, she plants the seed after being totally rejected by the monkey and dog. Step 3, time passes and she watches the wheat plant grow until it's yellow and ripe. Step 4, she has to cut the wheat, which she does completely on her own after the monkey, cat, and dog all refuse yet again. She is literally managing this entire supply chain single-handedly. Actually, let's pause on a word from step 3 for just a second. The source defines ripe as ready to eat. This signals a huge transition. The long, quiet, growing phase is officially over, and a brand new, highly active phase of processing is about to kick off. The raw material is ready, sure, but the work is far from finished. And you can really start to see the sheer physical toll of that work right here. The little red hen is pushing this heavy blue wheelbarrow just overflowing with cut wheat, entirely by herself. And why is she doing this alone? Because she asked, who will take this wheat to the mill, and got the exact same chorus of not I from the monkey, the cat, and the dog. So, true to form, she said, then I will. And, well, she did. So where exactly is she pushing that massive wheelbarrow? To the mill. Our source defines a mill as a place for grinding grain into flour. We are officially moving from agriculture into manufacturing. The hen is now engaging external infrastructure to process her raw, harvested materials. Once she's at the miller transforms that wheat into something entirely new. Our source defines flour as the powder of grain. This is the critical output of the mill. And once again, all the logistics fall entirely on our protagonist's shoulders. The text explicitly states, the little red hen carried the flour home. Just think about the sheer endurance required here. She planted, she harvested, she transported, and now she's hauling the processed goods all the way back. Which finally brings us to the last stage of production, the kitchen. She asks her so-called friends, who will make this flour into bread? The monkey, cat, and dog? Not I. So she just does it herself. Our source text gives us the exact breakdown of the ingredients. To her hard-earned flour, she adds water, salt, and butter. She mixes it all together and she bakes the mixture. The procedural journey from seed to sustenance is completely finished. And now we hit the absolute climax of the fable. The sun's shining, the bread is warm and ready to go, and the little red hen poses one last, completely different question to the group. She doesn't ask who's going to plant or cut or transport or bake. She asks, who will eat the bread? It is a perfectly laid trap. And oh man, does the tune change fast. Suddenly, that endless repetition of "not I" just completely vanishes. The monkey says, "I will." The cat says, "I will." The dog says, "I will." It's this spectacular, ironic turn. Now that the grueling labor is 100% complete and the reward is literally sitting right there on the table, everybody suddenly wants to be an active participant. Funny how that works, right? But here is where the strict structural logic of the fable comes crashing down on them. Let's look at the ledger of labor here. She planted the seed, cut the wheat, took it to the mill, brought the flour back, and made the bread. The contribution of the monkey, cat, and dog? Not I. The contrast is absolutely stark. You cannot have a completely empty ledger and expect to share the reward at the end of the day. Which brings us to this highly satisfying conclusion. The little red hen lays out the facts. We're counting every single step they failed to help with. Summarizing it perfectly. Now you will not eat the bread. I will eat it. And the text delivers that familiar, powerful final sentence, and she did. The reward is linked intrinsically and exclusively to the labor. To make absolutely sure the reader grasps the intended meaning, our source text distills the core moral takeaway into one sentence. Always be a helping hand to others. Because, as we just saw, if you flat out refuse to be a helping hand during the difficult phases of a project, you totally forfeit your right to enjoy the fruits of that labor at the end. So we started this explainer with a question about fairness and reward, and we've seen how the Little Red Hen's story answers it with absolute, unapologetic clarity. Now, I want to leave you with a question to reflect on in your own life. Knowing that the rewards of community and shared success are truly reserved for those who actually put in the work, ask yourself, how will you be a helping hand today? Think about that for a bit, and I'll see you in the next explainer.